Two devices that on the surface look worlds apart from each other. But just how true is that? How close is Plus to Ultra? Daniel here from SamMobile TV. Today we're going to find out just how close you can get to replicating the Ultra with the S24 Plus. With how big this video is, we decided to break it down, as usual, into categories. There's fundamental differences in approach to these two devices, and you will see that across all of the stuff that we discussed today. Design and display, their cameras, and also in their performance and their software. Especially as in most markets around the world, this has the EXYNOS 2400, and this has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy. Firstly, let's look at design. These phones have fundamental differences in approach to their aesthetic. This one is built for mass appeal, the S24 Plus being that generic looking phone that pretty much replicates what you see in the market already. There's still some Samsungization to it, it's a good word, where you still have the minimalist floating cameras sort of sitting at the back, but outside of that, it's a smartphone. Rounded corners, flat sides, flat display. That's what you get now in 2024. S24 Ultra is Samsung through and through. This is them flexing their design and innovation muscle, and although we've seen it now for a few generations, it's an identifier that makes you know that this is a Samsung phone. You've got the very identifiable camera array on the back, you've got the squared off corners and now flatter display, which isn't as Samsung as it used to be, but they've done it in their way where they still have that ever so slight curve from the bezel that dips into the rounded frame. Samsung have maintained that on the Ultra versus the Plus to still maintain that in-hand comfort for a phone that's this big. This is Samsung at their peak of design for a slab smartphone. They're expressing themselves. They're showcasing who they are and what they're about. That might sound a lot, but honestly, this design is Samsung. This is them appealing to a wider audience. The two held in your hands feel substantially different to each other. The S24 Ultra fits better with its rounded frame. It kind of has that better sort of feeling in the majority of your hand. And the S24 Plus has that sort of flat sides. But the S24 Ultra has that sharper corner at the bottom that kind of digs into your palm, whereas the S24 Plus has the rounded corner, which is a bit softer on your palm. But the sharpened edges that feel a bit sharper in the larger part of your hand. I've never, though, bought into the corners of the Ultra being too sharp because where it sits is in the thickest, cushiest part of your palm of your hand. So it's not really sort of digging in and hurting that much because it's got a lot of cushion. Whereas on the Plus, with its sharp sort of frame and edges, that's going into probably the firmest part of your palm and digging in more. It all depends on what you prefer. Some people like that rounded corner. Some people like the squared off corner. The materials are different this year though. The S24 Ultra, Samsung have opted for a titanium frame with a brushed finish. Definitely feels nice with the matte on the frame versus last year with the S23 Ultra. Sort of melds into the glass a little bit more, and I like the feeling that it gives you. But Samsung have tried to match that feeling with the Plus in now that even though it's an aluminium finish, it's still got that brushed sort of matte finish about it. And in the violet color that I've got here, it actually looks sensational because it matches and all links up and signs off together. The displays on these, apart from one very crucial detail and 0.1 of an inch in size, are the same. Samsung have now given the option for the Plus and the Ultra to have the same panel, same resolution, same adaptive refresh rate, same max peak brightness. It's the same across both models. But that one crucial difference, reflectivity. Samsung have got a special coating with the Gorilla Glass armor on the Ultra that reduces glare by 75%. And yeah, it checks out. I'm sure it's all been known, and I spoke about it in my hidden features video here on SamMobile TV, that is absolutely a crucial part of the display. Whether you're taking it outdoors between these two phones and taking photos, you see the difference. Whether you're indoors under studio lighting, like what I've got here, you see the difference. There is absolutely a difference across these two devices in that aspect. Outside of that though, there is no difference. The peak brightness when outside is the same. Barring that, again, that screen size difference, you've got the same display panel on both. Being the same panel, they get the same always on display feature as well. Samsung has enabled that lock screen always on display on the S24 Plus as well as being on the S24 Ultra also. Now we jump into cameras. This is where the difference spreads out even further because the Ultra in the last 2 years, Samsung has pushed the boundaries with their hardware on the Ultra even further away from the base and the Plus models. There is a fundamental hardware difference. using the word fundamental a lot. There is a different approach for hardware. The S24 Plus retains the 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 3 times 10 megapixels array of cameras on the back, whereas the Ultra has the same cameras, the 3 times and the ultra wide, although they have dual pixel autofocus, so again there's a separation. But the 200 megapixel main camera is a larger sensor and higher resolution, and there's a 5x 50 megapixel telephoto. Huge difference in hardware approaches, which then enables a big difference in software approach, because when we dive into the camera, you can see all those camera options sitting there at the bottom across the S24 Ultra versus what seems like nothing on the S24. We'll get to output in a moment, but there's some other functions and modes that do separate these two as well. The S24 Plus does have 4K 120, but only in slow motion. There is no Pro Video mode 4K 120 on the S24 Plus, whereas the S24 Ultra has 4K 120 in slow-mo, but also in Pro Video mode, and you can use either the ultra wide or the wide angle. With slow-mo and 4K 120, and Pro Video mode, it just gives you that flexibility afterwards to have that sharp video, but also then to slow it down to like a really nice pace, but still retain the quality. You can't switch between 4K 60 whilst recording on the S24 Plus. That could be an EXYNOS limitation, or it could be a sensor limitation on the main camera. No real way to tell, but the S24 Ultra can switch between 4K 60 lenses during recording, and it does it very sharp as well. So that could be something to consider if you're thinking about either of these phones. Samsung have brought in this cool feature called dual recording, and it is available on both, but there's a difference. You can output up to 4K 30 on the S24 Ultra. You're limited to full HD on the S24 Plus. Again, it's probably down to a sensor thing, not necessarily the chipset, but it's just weird. I would think that that kind of feature doesn't really require too much of a difference, but yeah, it's there. And with single take, again, Samsung have improved that feature, but there's limitations to the S24 Plus purely just on hardware. You're limited to 3x as your top zoom option, whereas the S24 Ultra can go up to 10x even with single take. That difference shouldn't be sneezed at, because when you actually are sitting there as a parent lazily enjoying a coffee at a park or a playground, when you want to get closer to your kid that's doing something, having that extra zoom absolutely with a feature like single take makes a difference. You can see here the two differences. The S24 Plus got close with the 3x, but man, getting to 5 and 10x on the S24 Ultra, it just gives you that closer, better feel, and you can capture more and more accurately because of the way that AI picks up and detects facial expressions, as an example. That's function and I guess software and hardware, but there's actually a difference in output as well. And it's quite crazy when you consider that they're from the same family of phones, S24, S24 Plus, and S24 Ultra, but there's a difference in how they take pictures and how they process them. With the S24 Plus, I noticed there was darker, more contrasty shadows, and even the things like the cloud, it was definitely a lot darker versus the S24 Ultra, which went for like that lighter aesthetic. It sort of not flattened things out, but definitely sort of brought out the light more versus what the S24 Plus did. There's a definite difference in the processing of the sky as well. The colors are different. The sky, the way it reproduces the blue, it's a different sky. Like you'd think it's a different place, but they're the same spot that I took the photo from. There's more detail as well in the S24 Ultra, and you can see that through the multitude of different photos that I took. And of course, the S24 Ultra has an output advantage as you extend through the zoom range. The S24 Plus did its best to keep up with the 10x, but once you go beyond that, and it just doesn't stand a chance. So if zoom range is important to you, the S24 Ultra just can go further. But that wasn't the difference that I noticed the most here. Honestly, the processing difference stood out to me. Whether that be taking photos of trees, whether that be taking photos of the beach and the sky, you noticed immediately the difference in output and the processing. It's crazy, but it's there, and you can let me know which one you prefer in the comments below. I also liked the fact the resolution on the S24 Ultra gave me more options, particularly at 5x, taking a 5x 50 megapixel shot. As I was sort of playing around with the comparison at Burley the other day, I took a 5x 50 megapixel photo of the S24 Plus. Stunning. It created this amazing depth effect and the detail was amazing, and then because it was 50 megapixel, I could crop in on a certain part of the photo and still have a 12 megapixel sharp image. That level of flexibility just isn't there on the S24 Plus. I did take a 50 megapixel shot and went in close with the 1x camera and just wasn't able to replicate it as well. So I think I like what the S24 Ultra gives me there over the S24 Plus. So that level of flexibility exists on the Ultra versus what you get on the Plus. At 200 megapixels, yeah, game over. The 200 megapixel shot I got of the S24 Plus as well, incredibly sharp, incredibly detailed, and really dramatic. I love it. At nighttime, the S24 Ultra definitely accounts for the S24 Plus. There's less noise and more detail in a lot of different areas. And again, as you go sort of further in, you obviously have that capability to take sharper, more detailed photos in lower light. And that didn't matter whether it was night mode or auto mode. Both of them sort of produced similar sort of results. And yeah, you can see that here. There was an instance where I found the S24 Ultra to have a warmer nighttime photo. It's this photo here in particular. It was a little bit cooler on the S24 Plus. So yeah, you might get some warmer details on the S24 Ultra at night, but definitely it still produces the better shot. As we move on to video, it's more of the same, really. That processing difference in video is evident again. As you can see in this shot here, the S24 Plus again is rendering everything a little bit darker, a little bit more contrasty. The shadows are crushed, not a lot, but it's definitely a lot darker. The S24 Ultra lifts them up. You've got a sort of a brighter shadowy area, and you can see that in sort of the corner of the balustrade, I think it's called. That's impressive if I knew what that was right off the top of my head. And then you can see in the sky behind it that the shadows of the clouds are a little bit lighter, and you're not getting that sort of grayness sort of drastically brought out. It's just a difference. You can see it. And of course, the same situation with the zoom. The S24 Ultra just has that capability with video to go in further. And it's very impressive too. Like, if you need that, honestly, don't even consider the Plus. Just go the Ultra because it can give you so much more in that respect. The 8K was the same. The 8K processing, you could, again, whilst it was a little bit less drastic in 8K on the Plus versus what it was in 4K 30, you can still see the difference in the approach. And then obviously the Ultra is 5x 8K as well, so that you can go in further. And that, again, that's just that difference in approach to hardware that sort of couples with the software and the output. I tested the microphones on both. And not only can you see a quality difference in the output of the video, but you can actually hear, I think the S24 Plus does better with voice isolation. You let me know. Let's test out the microphones in a very loud, noisy environment. Now people are looking at me, hey, because I'm doing a camera comparison. This is the sound from the S24 Plus, and then I'm switching now to the S24 Ultra. I would imagine the Ultra is going to be better, but it's probably going to be about the same. You let me know. As we move into night video, man, look, the S24 Ultra slayed it here. It had an incredible level of noise reduction and better detail versus what the S24 Plus did. And I don't know whether that's EXYNOS Snapdragon difference, but you can just see it. Or whether that's 200 megapixel sensor versus 50 megapixel sensor, which has nothing to do with video. It's just the sensor names that I could retain off the top of my head. But you can see the difference in how it's integrating that detail. So yeah, night video, tick, S24 Ultra. Reining it into the end now. When it comes to performance, this is probably where a lot of people are like EXYNOS Snapdragon, there's this massive difference. The thing is, Samsung haven't necessarily hamstrung the Ultra Snapdragon just to make the EXYNOS look better, because the EXYNOS is already good and there's no need to. They have Galaxy AI on both, and you can go check out our What is Galaxy AI video to sort of get a comprehensive overview of everything Galaxy AI is capable of, but they have it. Both phones are capable of all the on-device processing and also the cloud-based stuff that Samsung have enabled. Go check that video out. The big difference in performance, and coupled into that with software, is the S Pen. The S Pen drastically changes the S24 Ultra into a different stratosphere. It's the little tool that sits inside your phone that enables a whole extra set of stuff that no other phone is capable of, let alone Samsung's own phones, but the Ultra takes it away. Whether that be remote shutter for your camera and being able to zoom using the air gestures that Samsung have enabled and switching back and forth between cameras. Whether it be controlling media, like playing and pausing YouTube videos or in Spotify. Whether that be in Samsung Notes and all the amazing Samsung Notes features that you get alongside the S Pen, like aligning handwriting and handwriting to text. That is all part of the S Pen experience. And the fact that Samsung barely have to sacrifice anything to enable the S Pen being inside the S24 Ultra, it's just one of those things that a lot of people take for granted. Now, if you've heard all of that and you think, well, what do I need all that for? Then maybe the Ultra is not for you. And that is where the Plus can come in. Just know that if you ever want to use the S Pen or have that moment where you need to jot something down, the S Pen is not supported on the S24 Plus. Even as an extra accessory. You might want to consider the Ultra just for that moment where you might need it. Plus, of course, you get all the extra stuff the Ultra can do as well. I tested the speakers because from a media consumption point of view, whilst the displays don't have much difference, you want to maybe hear what it sounds like. Not that I usually condone listening to your phone at full volume anywhere, anytime, but the fact is that both of them output very similar sound. So you probably won't be missing out much in that respect. Have a listen. The Galaxy S24 Ultra got announced with a lot of attention on its new Galaxy AI services. But what about the rest of it? Today we're going to uncover 10 of the best hidden features that Samsung didn't announce or tell us about we've managed to dig up. Daniel here from SamMobile TV. Let's take a look at our top 10 hidden features on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. As we love to do, the Galaxy S24 Ultra got announced with a lot of attention on its new Galaxy AI services. But what about the rest of it? Today we're going to uncover 10 of the best hidden features that Samsung didn't announce or tell us about we've managed to dig up. Daniel here from SamMobile TV. Let's take a look at our top 10 hidden features on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. As we love to... The UI interaction is fundamentally the same, and that's basically because it's One UI 6.1, and the optimizations Samsung have made very seem to be on a software level versus just the hardware level, so you can definitely see the fluidity of the software at play in both. I wanted to test some performance features that a lot of people might use a little bit more than benchmarks, for example, so I tested video exporting. In Samsung's Studio Editor, the S24 Ultra absolutely accounts for exporting video versus what it does on the S24 Plus. They're the same clips, arranged in the same order, outputting to the same resolution, and the speed of the S24 Ultra is faster. So that is probably a Snapdragon versus EXYNOS thing in that respect, and a lot of it's probably to do with maybe how optimized Samsung have for video editing and exporting with the Snapdragon and the graphical processing. So that definitely is something that the Ultra does better. So if that's your workflow, if you're into media editing and video editing, you might think the Ultra could be better for you. I did some object erasing, so on-device stuff, not the AI, and the S24 Ultra did it marginally quicker. So again, it just showcases a little bit of extra performance in the Ultra versus the Plus, but that was marginal. That was like a fraction of a second. I haven't had the Plus long enough to sort of test the battery. It's 4,900 milliamp hours, and you have 5,000 on the S24 Ultra. The thing when it comes down to with battery on this is the Ultra is the heavy power user. The do everything people who want their phone to do a lot. They likely will be using their phone more. S24 Plus fundamentally is aimed at the more general smartphone consumer. Someone who maybe isn't wanting to push their phone to the limits, but still enjoys the light social media usage, taking the odd photo here and there, and some multitasking at their leisure. The Plus with its 4,900 mAh battery is going to be a king of battery when it comes to that type of usage. Especially when you consider that it's massive battery and the display is a little bit smaller than the Ultra. And a lot of people will probably be content with keeping the display at full HD+, and that's okay for them. That battery life will be monstrous. The Ultra, as an Ultra user myself, is getting me massive numbers. So I'm enjoying it. I think you're not missing out if you don't go the Ultra on battery life. You'll probably gain some. But if you're an Ultra user, you're likely to use your phone more. So you might lose some. But comparatively, it's good. The S24 Ultra clearly offers you more. You know, you've got the 200 megapixel main camera, you've got the 50 megapixel 5x telephoto camera, you've got dual pixel and quad pixel autofocus across the cameras, you've got the S Pen with its incredible feature set that not a lot of people seem to want to talk about for some reason. You've got the anti-reflectivity coating on the front of the display. It gives you so much, but you pay for it. The S24 Plus, for its value, offers you a lot of phone. It just doesn't have the most differentiating aesthetic compared to what the Ultra does. But Samsung have got enough about it that identifies that it's a Samsung with its floating camera rings and the display, which is exceptional, to let you know this is a 2024 Samsung flagship. As an offering, the Plus has never been closer to the Ultra. The gap in what you're missing from a hardware level is not as evident as what it used to be, especially when you consider the displays are the same, you've got the same resolution, RAM is now finally hitting the ceiling that it should. It's getting to that level where really, why are these both here? But this is still good. If you don't quite need what you get from this, this could be perfect for you. Thank you for tuning in to SamMobile TV. This is your place for everything Samsung, so please hit that subscribe button because we've got coverage of every single device Samsung seem to make in the mobile space. If not here, it'll be covered on our website. So make sure you go check out sammobile.com as well for comprehensive coverage on software, updates, apps, you name it. Come find us on our social media as well. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and we're also on X. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.